Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session today, our second meeting of the Community Resilience Forum. Myself and Jonathan are running this session today, and we hope you're all going to be joining in and contributing in the session today. Just a quick look at the agenda for today. We're just going to do some welcome and introductions and a few ground rules in a minute. Then we're going to have a quick recap on what we did last time, and then we're actually going to, we had a really productive meeting last time, but also today I just want to step out slightly and show you some of the sorts of things, the sort of techniques or activities that could be, or structures that could be in place in a community that actually help with resilience. Then we're going to look at what we need to do to create the sort of things that we want within Wellingborough, you know, listening to those techniques or maybe thinking about things we already know. We're going to get started with how do we actually get started? You know, what could we focus on first? Because there's always usually loads to do. So it's good to see if we are actually doing something that we can build on. And then ask ourselves, is there a need to do something before this? You know, and I'll come on to that a bit later. And then talk about planning for the future and what next. So that's the kind of agenda for today. But as Jonathan was saying, we have a few ground rules. So we'll just go quickly through that. And then if I ask everybody to introduce themselves. So if you can keep yourself muted while you're not speaking, and then please unmute yourself, you know, when you're invited to speak. If you want to speak, either put your hand up physically or put the little hand up on the reactions bar. That would be very helpful. We need to, you know, we might agree with each other, we might not, but we always need to treat each other with respect in the meeting. Please try and avoid the use of jargon, long words, or if you do, if you can explain what they are, and also any acronyms as well. If you say those, again, if you can explain what they are. Let's leave time for each of us to be able to contribute in the session, and we may break into groups, we will see. So, but the final thing and the point that Jonathan was making, we could be taking some pictures. So if you don't want your picture taken, can you speak up now? Let Jonathan know. You can either Jonathan will avoid taking a picture of you, or you could always just hide yourself, your video view of yourself, or you know, instead. Is that okay? Are there any other ground rules anybody wants to suggest?
It's important to point out that we are recording this. I think you might have sort of touched on that, but we are recording this. You will be put onto YouTube, but obviously we're sharing it locally. It's not something that everybody can see unless they particularly Google or YouTube, whatever you do to search YouTube, Wellingborough Community Resilience Forum. So it's something to share what we're doing locally, because we think everybody should be able to see it and everybody should be able to join in. There's the 10 of us today. There was 24 last time, but a lot of people are sort of getting into this. We've had over 100 views of the video from the last one, so it is sort of touching bases, and there's a lot of people sort of looking at it and sort of getting really excited by the things that we're doing. We have had over 10 apologies today for various reasons, so our numbers would have been an awful lot bigger, but like I say, right at the last minute, a lot of people have had a few issues today, so I don't know, not going to share obviously what they are, but there we go. Should we start with the introductions, Marion?
Yeah. So everybody's all right with the rules. I know we've got some new people here with us today, or at least one new, but no, two or three new people I can see. So just introductions. If you can just say your name, if you're with an organisation, perhaps say that the name of that organisation. And one thing I'd like you to do, and I want you to just take, you know, is also what would a thriving one thing in our community, what would that be that you words? So your name, and the organisation you might be from, if you're from an organisation, and one element that you would love to see within the community of Wellingborough that would make your heart sing and you think would be a really good thing for our community. So I can start off if you like. My name's Marion Turner-Hawes. I'm the manager at the centre manager at the Victoria Centre, and I do other things like street watch, etc., other things in the community. One ingredient I would love to see in our town is a greater sense of community and people feeling that we are one community. That's something, if I was waving my magic wand, that's what I would like to see. So that's me, and I'm going to pass the ball down to Gary.
Hello, I'm Gary. I'm an actor and presenter, but I'm here as the artistic director of GLJ Theatre today. We meet in the town, and one thing that I would like more from us as a community or for the community is togetherness. I think there's lots of wonderful projects going on, but I think it will be great if we could all work together to make them stronger or do different avenues and so on. And I'll pass to Jaya.
Hi, I'm Jaya Taylor and I work for the One Wellingborough, mainly trying to, engage with the BAME community and to kind of share the kind of services that we have on offer at the moment. So what I am looking for is this lockdown to release so that I could then be able to go out and have outdoor exercises and outdoor activities with so many that are so stuck at home. And yeah, that's what I'd like to do. I'm going to pass to Jenny.
I'm here as a trustee from SofaWise, and I've had to think quickly. What I'm missing from Wellingborough now are all the community forums, the environmental forums, the partnership that we used to have 12, 15 years ago. We really were community minded then. I know I used to attend most of them and I chaired some of them. Those have all gone, and I agree with the previous speakers that we need to get something back again around community, around partnership, working, sharing.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Who are you passing the ball to?
Oh, well, I don't know who's there. Well, oh, I can see Tony Aslam. I'll pass it to him. I can't see anybody else at the moment. Let's have a hunt.
Thank you, Jenny. Borough Councillor of Victoria Ward, trustee of the Victoria Centre, and also coordinator for the Community Street Watch in Victoria Ward. And I would like to see everyone, whether you pink, blue, black, green, whatever, hold hands with each other and unite. That's what I would like to see from this resilient forum.
Thank you very much, Tony. Who are you passing the ball to?
Sam.
Sam?
Thank you very much, Tony. I've just caught the ball. Thank you very much. So my name is Samuel Shoesmith. I'm from Wellingborough Active Travel and also Wellingborough Critical Maps. And one thing that I would really like to see for Wellingborough is more active travel. This is people either walking or cycling and being more active. It can have benefits for the individual, but also for society. If there's less car use, more movement, it's just better all round. And I think it's a great way of engaging the community. It's great for exercise, great for mental well-being, great for everything. It's just fantastic. So yeah, that's what I would like to see.
Thanks very much, Sam.
Or should I pass the ball on to someone? I would like to pass the ball to Sky.
Sky, thank you.
Sky, you there?
You're muted, Sky. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Zoom etiquette. I'm too used to being on mute now. So I'm Sky, the community champion at Morrisons Wellingborough store. And I think that what I would love to see from the Wellingborough community, because I'm actually from Northampton, I'm a little bit of a fraud, but I think something that would be great for the Wellingborough community is just people being able to see outside of their own individual life. And I think it'd be really great if people could embrace everyone. So basically what everyone else has said, just bringing everyone together so that everyone can be part of the community.
Thank you very much, Sky. Who are you passing the ball to before you disappear?
I think I'm the last person on the list, aren't I? I did have
No,
a
there's
quick
2
scroll.
people.
3 more.
In fact, there's-
Oh gosh, so much pressure. V Bland.
yeah, that's Victoria.
Yeah,
Victoria spoken?
No.
Yes,
not
I'm
yet.
here right now. Hi, it's Victoria. I'm with Sophie from Wellingborough Library, and we would like for the community to do something to help the homelessness, because there seems to be a gathering again in the centre. So it'd be nice if we could do something about that.
To helping homeless.
And I'm going to pass on to
Paul.
who hasn't had a go yet.
Paul or me? So Paul can go
I'll
next.
go for Paul.
I think Paul can't speak today, so he's asked me to read something out for him. I believe. So Paul is from Northamptonshire Rights and Equality Council, as well as many other groups, and he would like to see the end of the food bank because we've ended poverty. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Paul. Okay.
You've forgotten about me, Marion, as usual, which is...
No, I haven't forgotten about you. I was just reading and see if Paul said anything else. So.
Oh, okay.
So Paul, if Paul was here, I'm sure he would pass the ball on now. I mean, Paul is here, but if he could speak, I'm sure he'd pass the ball on now to Jonathan.
Hello, my name's Jonathan. I've got a few hats to wear. I'm a community resilience officer for the One Wellingborough Plus project. I'm secretary of Wellingborough Eco Group, treasurer of Ladywell Allotment Society. I'm a home delivery driver for Morrisons, and I do a couple of other bits as well. What would I like to do? I'd like us all to be working together, which I think is what this is all about. I think for far too long in this town, people have been doing their own things, different things, some fantastic, some for their own devices. And it'd be nice if everybody was doing the different things together and making the best of what each other's doing. And I'm hoping for this forum to facilitate and help everybody to do that.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Okay, it's good to remember, isn't it? While we're all here. So we're going to do, I'll go back to the slides. We're going to do a little bit of a recap on what we were talking about last week and then think how we want to move forward. So if you bear with me. Okay, can everybody see those again? Please, those that I can see, please say something.
Yes, Marion.
Okay, so those are our introductions. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad you're all able to join us today. Now, this is where you want the slides to move. Okay, there we go. So a quick recap from last time. I just got a few slides and then Jonathan's going to help us with some of the notes from last time. So last time we talked about what we introduced the Community Resilience Project that we've been running since last October, and some of the people that are taking part in that, and some of those people actually spoke last time. We also talked about the main parts of that project, and I think a lot of these things actually would be very common. So if we had a model of what community resilience would look like, these elements here would be in the heart of that. So we talked about people having a community voice and leadership, and that's what we could do through the forum. We talked about community resilience activities, or activities that help us to be more resilient as individuals or as groups, and community inclusion, because it's really important that whilst we work together, we're also embracing the diversity that who we are and how we can work together. We asked ourselves what community resilience is, and we went through what that is. We talked about whether some common ingredients in a society that was more resilient, or communities that are more resilient. And we talked about some of the challenges that we've been facing this year and have done for quite a while, because yes, there's a lot, the new ones this year, but a lot of the ones that were here before have just been made so much worse as well. And then we thought, well, what would a resilient Wellingborough actually look like? And we had some thoughts and ideas on that. And then we decided to, we thought, well, what can we do? How can we work together? How can we plan together to try and help create a more resilient community? Even if we have to start small, how can we do that? So we discussed a few things. So I'm just going to invite Jonathan now to just remind us about some of the main things that people contributed at the last meeting, because I know there's quite a few of us here from that meeting, but there's a few that aren't, or that weren't. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, Marion. Yeah, we had a busy meeting last time. We had 24 people turn up, as I think I said earlier. As Marion's already introduced, we had ourselves, me and Marion, talking about the One Wellingborough Plus project, introducing and giving examples of community resilience. We spoke in great length and had some fantastic feedback from everybody about what exactly the ingredients were, lots of ideas about sort of challenges, and I say people really sort of got into it and really kind of shared with each other. It's a really interesting watch. I've probably watched the video of it, which is I think 2 hours and 22 minutes about 3 times now, just to try and look at what people were really sort of getting into, and I think everybody contributed. A few of us sort of contributed more than others, I think, let's say, but it's really good that everybody's really keen to join in. It's a shame, like I say, we've had a few apologies today, because I think definitely, I know a lot of those people that did sort of apologise were really desperate to sort of join in again and really contribute. If you haven't had a look at the video, which you might not have done, a couple of new people, do so on our blog, which is at onewellingboroughlus.wordpress.com. I'm sure I've probably sent that link out 1,000 times already. But obviously this is the next stage. The point, and I think we introduced this at the last forum, is that we need to look at what challenges there are, what we can possibly do. I think now is the time to sort of look at what we can do and expand on it and actually sort of fulfill some of those ideas. And I think this is where we're going next, Marion.
Thank you very much. I was just trying to write that link down again. What was it again? One Wellingborough?
One Wellingborough Plus, all words, no numbers, .wordpress.com. And if you looked at the blog, it's on there. I believe also that I might have put it on the video onto the registration page. So everybody's had that link and the attendance page to look at that. If not, everybody that's here, I will share the video with you again later.
Thanks very much, Jonathan. So just popping on to the slides again. I can do that. Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions from anybody about what we were sharing in terms of last week, or where we're going now, or anything anybody else wants to add to the agenda? I can't hear anything, so.
The only thing that's not on there is something that's probably going to be covered already about the time bank, Marion. I think we can get into that a bit later, can't we?
Yeah, I'm going to mention that in a moment. Okay. Right, thank you. So this time we're going to have a look at some other bits. One thing I wanted to talk about first is, in looking to create, see what we can do as a forum, but also think about creating a more a resilient community, actually, you know, it is also about thinking about the challenges, the needs that we have in our lives, as well as the challenges, being clear what they actually are, and then seeing, can we address them maybe differently? Because actually, you know, can we find some commonality? So what I wanted to invite us to do now really is think about what needs do we have in common? You know, what are our needs individually as human beings, but what needs would we then have in common? And then the next question is, are we able to work together to see how we can meet some of those needs together? So I'm just going to pause again, come back to the screen. So just a general question then. Now this, some people will have heard of Maslow's law of hierarchy of needs. So I think it's quite helpful to understand what our basic human needs are, as well as our needs in terms of how we look in a community. But first off, individually, what our common needs are. So anybody want to shout out, or write out what you see as being a human need that we all have? Jenny.
This is something that I quote from time to time when people are moaning about their lot. And it's surprising how even people who have a lot of material goods still moan. But we need, as people, and I know from the struggles I've had, we need food, clothes and shelter to keep us alive, to survive. That's a survival thing.
Thank you very much for that, Jenny. Right, what other needs are there then? I'm asking other people. Anybody else got any other thoughts about what needs we have as individuals, as human beings?
We need to give love and respect.
We need to feel. Do we need to feel love, or do we need to be able to give love, or do we need both?
We need to feel love, give love, and respect each other, no matter what color or race you are.
No. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else think about any other needs that we have as individuals, perhaps?
Yeah, I think we need to be able to speak to someone. You need a social life. You need some aspect of having family around you, you know, people around you. You need to talk, otherwise we're all going to not feel so bright, are we?
So would you say it's like a sense of belonging and connection?
I mean, at the moment, you can't even see your family, you can't see your friends. Yeah. So, you know, it's affecting a lot of people, really is.
So we actually need human contact. Yeah. Well, not just human, obviously animal contact as well, but we need human contact, social contact. I'll see your hand, Sam. Will be with you in a second. Social contact. Thank you. Thanks very much for that, Jaya. Sam.
So I'm just going to echo this point as well. Just saying about social interaction, it's so important. We are a social being, and as well as having the necessities, you know, water, shelter, of course, they're important. But being able to chat to someone, being able to interact with them, so social interaction is a key part of being human. I think for our survival.
Thank you very much. And I noticed, did you want to say yours, Victoria and Sophie? You said about warmth and company.
Yeah, we were just saying that it is important to have company and to have social interactions with each other, and obviously to keep warm as well, and have shelter.
Thank you very much, Victoria. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I imagine if we'd have been having this conversation a week, a year and a month before, I think people might have said about social interaction, but perhaps not as loudly as we're all feeling it now, because we're all missing it so much, I think. I'm going to read out what Paul shared as well. Paul's saying freedom from fear. So to feel secure, not to be hated or discriminated against, to be valued as a human being and to be respected. So we need to feel safe.
I think it's also worth saying the obvious maybe sometimes is we as humans always you know, families or whatever do need money sometimes to pay bills as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about everything.
Yeah. No.
So need to just write down.
Or help if money isn't available, obviously.
Yeah.
Or help.
So need to feel safe, loved, not hated. And let's talk about some open goals, and of course money and resources, you know, to be able to live our lives, or help to be able to live our lives. Who else had their? I think Jonathan had his hand up then.
Yeah, I think we all need a sense of purpose. We all need something to sort of work for, something to live for, if you like. A lot of people, particularly during the pandemic, possibly, well, definitely, have felt aimless, have felt sort of worthless. Everybody needs to have a worth.
Thank you very much. Anybody else got their hand up? I'm just also, Vicky's saying about also need to have good health. Absolutely, good health. Feel well. To feel well and physically well, but also mentally well and maybe spiritually well as well. Thank you very much. Has anybody? Oh, Sam got his hand up again.
I've just come up with one that ties just in with what I, my, drive. But the reason I'm here, the need to exercise, the need to walk, the need to cycle, the need to move about, and I think that's certainly one of them. As I said earlier, it helps both mentally and physically, and I think we strive for that, and we need it.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'm going to share kind of two linked ones now. Firstly, I think kind of joining into what Sam was saying about exercising, etc. I think one thing I like to do if I'm finding things difficult is actually just getting out and exploring and and then this is the second part, connecting to the earth. So actually, being and feeling connected to the earth that I come from is really, really important to me. So connection to nature, but also exploring as well, having a chance to clear my mind and just wander about. And when I go away on holiday, I like just wandering around and just seeing stuff, freeing my mind really. So connection to nature.
Who said the one about being healthy? Sorry, I was distracted with my own thing there for a second.
That was Victoria and Sophie.
Okay, yeah, of course it was, yeah.
Yeah, and then Sam was adding to that. Any others? Any other needs? Any other fundamental needs?
I think Jaya did say about sort of family, but to extend on that, you need to sort of have the support of a family and your friends. I think she was talking about sort of talking, socializing and stuff, but it's the belonging to a unit, whether that be your unit friends or your unit families, or even possibly, as Jenny's putting her hand up, to like an organization like a church or whatever.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jonathan. Jenny?
We're talking about family and relationships, but we mustn't forget that many people don't have family, they don't have those strong relationships, or they've cut or been thrown out, or there is some reason why they don't have those relationships. So we mustn't forget them either.
Absolutely.
That's the other side of the coin.
Absolutely. And I think in that situation, I know from my own experience, and I've seen with a lot of people friends from the lesbian and gay community, LGBT community, many of us experienced being isolated from families. So we created our own families. We created our own friend networks, etc., which became surrogate families. And many people in that situation are often closer to their friends or their people through that group, or, as Jonathan was saying, it could be a church group or a football club or a sports club or whatever. But people are actually creating that network of support and connection.
Mm.
So
But I would still maintain there is a large proportion of people who are excluded for whatever reason. Sometimes, and this is stereotyping, I know, you think of the gangs that teenagers make. Some are not violent, others have violence. There is a whole band of exclusion in society, and it can be everywhere or anywhere in society.
so coming from that then is the sense to feel needed, to feel a sense of belonging, but also a sense of being respected or valued. That's the word.
Valued. Value is the word. The need to be valued.
And appreciated.
Yes. And that's two-way. They have to value other people, and other people have to value them as well.
Yeah, so if we're thinking about our own needs as human beings, these are common things for us that all of us, I think, would love to be able to feel these things. Is anybody going to say something else, or shall I just, ability to reach out and be there for others?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that's good. That one's good.
Being able to contribute and help is also
Yes.
something that many of us really want to do. We like to help, to contribute and help. Okay.
On that, Marion, like the days from the library have got a really nice hub going there, but it's having the opportunity to be able to go somewhere to have that experience, having a home, having a central point, be it a community centre or the library, or sort of a community space where people can sort of go and feel sort of respected, and like having a second home if their home isn't how can I say, particularly a nice place to be.
Yeah.
That's very salient at the moment, obviously, with the issues going on with violence against women, of course.
Absolutely. So there's this sense then of, well, it comes back to, I think, what Paul was saying earlier about feeling safe, and many friends have said about feeling respected and cared about, and feeling welcomed actually as well. You know, it's a funny thing to say in your own community, but actually I think all of us need to feel like we are welcomed. We're welcome to take part and be able to contribute and belong. I just want to kind of sum up some of those. So if you excuse me for a second.
Can I just jump in on the, oh, sorry.
Please do. Are you
go for it, Sky? Go on, go.
Let's
Don't feel bashful.
Just while we were talking about gangs, and I think it was sort of emphasising on teenage gangs. I'm not sure if that was the point that Jenny was making. I just wanted to emphasise the fact that having worked with young people, and in particular young people that are part of gangs or have been, let's say, a victim to gangs, I think that it's important to note that these young people join gangs for the same reasons that other people join communities. So just going back on that, I'm not sure if that was covered. I just really wanted to make that point, that these young people are finding a safe space for themselves, like they're finding a community for themselves where they feel respected and they are heard. And I think that that's something that really needs to be pushed, that people's voices are being heard, and that in a community, that's what we're here for. We're here to listen to everyone.
Thank you very much, Sky, and you prompted me to write down some more needs. I'm noting your hand, Jenny, but if you bear with me for a second. I'm noting your hand. Somebody else might have their hand up as well, but I can only see 4 people at once on this thing. So just to recap, just to recap, we all need somewhere safe and warm, a warm home to live, a shelter, clothes on our back, as Jenny said, food, to be able to nurture ourselves and the people that we're with, hopefully. Being able to contribute, we need to be able to contribute in our society as well, and have that sense of belonging and feeling welcomed, but also within that community, or whether it's a family, whether it's just ourselves, whether it's a group of people in a town or in a street, of being heard. I think being heard is one of the most important needs that we all have, because if we're being heard, then we're being recognized, and we're not invisible anymore. And there's a lot of people feel invisible. So how can we help each of us feel heard and be mindful about how we might need to be heard? Because not all of us are able to speak. Not all of us are able to either verbally speak the same language or speak at all. Not all of us will be able to understand in the same way as others do. So it's also the different ways that we need to be, that the systems that we're within need to be set up so that we can be heard. A sense of belonging. Obviously, Gary made a very basic and very fundamental one, and it's really important because it's one of the biggest motivators in our lives. It's having enough energy, enough money to be able to meet a range of needs, because that's one way that that's in our society, that's one of the most common ways that we do meet our needs, is through money. Not the only way, but it's one of the most common ways. So it's lots of really important things. Also, that we need to be able to get around. Now, Sam touched on being able to walk or exercise or cycle. And some people obviously need to be able to get around. They might be using cars or buses or whatever to get around, or transport, but we need to be able to get around because we like exploring. As human beings, we love exploring, whether we're exploring our back garden, if we're lucky to have one, or exploring a continent or whatever, or a town or a city, whatever. We like to be able to explore. I think another thing that's fundamental to human beings is the ability to create or be creative. And that's something that is innate within us because we want to contribute to the world. So there's some of the things I've thought of in conjunction with the points that you were all sharing. As I know Jenny had her hand up. Where's she gone?
Yeah. I wanted to support, was it Sky who said about that belonging to a gang is part of belonging and finding your family. I didn't bring that out well enough, but that was a point well made and is at the essence of it. And when you think about it, all sorts of people have groups and gangs, don't they, right through the age structure of society.
That's right. I mean, we could have a little game now of how many gangs is everybody a part of.
Yes.
Can I say that?
Yep,
I think Jenny, a few people are probably part of the noisiest bunch, the Christians that make all those noise with those church bells.
Oh.
Sorry, Jenny, couldn't help myself.
Let's be fair and say many of the faiths use bells. Come on, not just one. I know you're joking, but if this is going on out in the public domain, let's make it clear that it is all religions may use bells at particular times for particular reasons. So
thinking about just, I mean, if you think about these needs, 2 or 3, 3 or 4 or 5 are basically very, very fundamental. And more the things that people think about. But actually, when you're talking about being able to have a sense of purpose, being heard, being able to contribute, having a sense of belonging or feeling welcome, they're often thought of as softer needs, but actually they are the ones that often, after we've met the basic needs of having a roof over our head and food in our bellies and warm clothes on, the other ones are the ones that motivate us through, virtually every action that we're a part of. So what we're thinking then is, okay, there are individual needs, but clearly how does a good society, a good community actually, and can we see how we could jointly meet those needs in a very positive way? How do we, so if we're creating, for example, like we're setting up this forum and we probably want to do some very practical things together, I think it's important to remember those fundamental needs, because often, if you're thinking about, we talked about gangs, didn't we, or groups or whatever that we might feel a part of, whether it's a family or a church group or a youth group or whatever, or people hanging out in the park or whatever, that within those groups, we still have these needs, don't we? We still have the need to feel a sense of belonging, to feel welcomed, to feel that we are able to contribute, to feel that we're able to be creative, to feel, you know, that we can really give in our community, or even to help out. I mean, one of the most fundamental needs for many people is to be able to help somebody else, or some other person or creature. So
another really important need that nobody sort of came up with is the ability to learn. So, I mean,
there you go.
I mean, knowledge is a basic need, really, isn't it? And
to grow and develop.
Yeah, well, schools are a basic need for me. Like children need to sort of have an education. Adults need to have an education. And there is one more as well, that news is also a basic need, because an awful lot of people, particularly young people, Jenny, before you say it, is that a lot of people get all of their news from a certain source, a balanced news, an overview, rather than sort of just being fed one particular point of view. Being able to sort of share sort of a balanced view, I think is a very sort of basic need to avoid having a polarized society. So
in a way, it's like having a context that each of us needs to feel that we have a context, and that maybe that need to hear what's going on is that, where do I fit within that context? You know, if I don't know what's going on, how can I take part? If I don't know what's going on, how can I help? Or how can I meet my needs? So it's actually being informed, because obviously there are a lot of us that live in this community, and you know, sometimes many of us can feel left out. And, you know, and I know a number of friends have said about that, you know, the sense of isolation and loneliness, because people, maybe they're stepping out, but also they're being left out because they're not being included. So that sense of being included. So I think Vicky's also written down about engaging with culture and arts, and that brings up the point I was saying about being creative. You know, I think it's an innate quality within human beings to want to create. So if these are all our innate needs, are we actually getting them met? You know, how do we get them met in our communities? How can we work together to help all of us get our needs met? You know, and how can we do that in such a way that actually doesn't cut across somebody else's needs? How do we do it collaboratively? So I'm just going to leave those questions out there, and, you know, but this is fundamental, you see. So most of the services and things that we have in our communities have evolved in a response to these needs, but sometimes they're ones that we've inherited and other people have decided. So I think there's another need, is in that sense of being heard, it's also being involved in a decision that gets made about us. So one of the common statements within the disability movement is nothing about us without us. Well, a lot of us, you know, and I'm saying this quite a lot of us feel that there's a lot of decisions that affect each of our lives that are we're not heard on at all, and those decisions are often made without us. So how can we create something where people can, and maybe show that we can do this? You know, it isn't about excluding other people, or it isn't about expediency, only one person's voice, you know. Anyway, sorry, Sky's got her hand up.
Yeah, so I've just been scribbling away as you've been talking, Marion, and I think that, so what I've done, got a little list of the practical ways that we can address needs of people that aren't necessarily being heard in the community, and I think there are huge issues, not just in Wellingborough, everywhere, with people not being heard and therefore not being included in what happens in their community. So a little list that I've just jotted down, based on what we spoke about already, are homeless people. I do a lot of work with Project 1615, who support homeless people, and their key ethos is that all people should be valued equally, whether you're homeless or sleeping rough, etc. I've put special educational needs, because there are, again, it links in with disability. It's about people making decisions for people that they don't necessarily understand the experience of. So Marion, as you said, you've probably heard this already. but just the idea that, oh, wheelchair users need this, or blind people need this. It's like, are you blind? Do you understand that? No. So it's about getting the voices of people who have experienced the issue at hand. I've just put down some ideas about how Morrisons can do that. Obviously, that's who I'm representing. So I've put donations. It's an obvious one. We're a supermarket. It makes sense for us to be able to donate food, clothing, whatever we can to the groups that need it, particularly homelessness. And the BAME community, I think Jaya is representing. We're trying very hard. Again, not my experience. I'm a white woman. However, I'm very keen to make sure that people of the BAME community are included. And therefore, that's by offering donations, not necessarily of pasta and spaghetti and baked beans, but spices and rice and things that people of other cultures need to feel that they are still part of their culture, regardless of the situation they're in. I feel like I'm really waffling now, so please just interrupt me if I am.
You're going well, Sky, carry on.
Thanks. And then I've just put, for purpose, something that I really push is for staff engagement at Morrisons. I'm constantly, Jonathan, you might have seen it on the notice board. I've got a little gap now, like, please put your ideas. Who can we support? Who can we help? And people at Morrisons are so keen to get involved in different charities and to see the work that we do. And I think that that is something, if you ask people to help, they're normally obliging. People want to be part of change and they want to be a part of this movement. For example, the litter picking, that's blown up. Everyone is litter picking now. I go out walking my dog. I see wombles everywhere. Love it.
We're in the paper.
There you go. Jonathan's got the spread.
We're in the paper.
Woo!
And just to prove it, there's a lovely picture of Sky in there too. I avoided it myself. Sorry, not that this is all about litter picking, but there's Sky litter picking outside the Victoria Centre.
So just to sum all of that up, because I am waffling now, I think something that we need to do is just firstly address the groups that aren't being heard and focus on making sure that they are, because that is how we're going to bring people who aren't included into this community and how we're going to make our community one by including everyone. That's my TED talk. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Sky. I'm going to go back to the slides and pick up on what you've been saying, actually. I'm just trying to keep an eye on what people
Can I just big up Sky a little bit? Because we are included, I don't know if you can see that, on the notice board at Morrisons. So that little bit there is the One Wellingborough Plus logo. Yay. And she's made a big thing of us being there. And that, if you can see it, is all the stuff that Morrisons are doing. So there's a stack of stuff going on. So really impressive. Well done, Sky.
Where's that notice board? Is it the staff notice board?
Yes, in the staff room. For once, I had 5 minutes free from my whizzing around in a van. So I went up there and sort of sat there with a cup of water and looked behind me, and there's all this stuff going on. So I probably go up there once every 3 months, but it was a really nice surprise to see that. It's good.
Yay, thanks, Jonathan.
Okay, so thank you very much for your contribution, Sky. I'm just going to carry on, if that's okay. So we talked about some common needs, haven't we? And now if I can get this screen to move. So I'm thinking about common resilience ingredients. So, you know, if, as I said last week, if we were waving our magic wand, thinking about those needs that we've identified and thinking about particularly about inclusion and enablement and helping everybody to be able to meet all those needs together at the same time. I'm thinking there's a range of ingredients that we could have within a community. Now, I've started this list, but I haven't finished it. So I'm going to go through some of them, but I'm sure you will think of other things as well. So if this is sort of my list of if I had a magic wand and the things I would like to suddenly appear within our community that perhaps aren't here at the moment, but please, you know, as we go, when we get through, if you can suggest other ones as well, and some people have already. So one thing I would like to see is if we could move from the idea of them and us to just us, you know, and the quality of that is the thought that there's nobody outside, there's just us. So if you think about the people that we think about in our towns and communities, about there's those that we might call the powers that be, or those that make the decisions, and us that don't, maybe, whatever. Actually, well, it's just us, it's all of us, because if we fundamentally see each other as human beings first, maybe we can get to a place of seeing us, you know, and some people might have a louder voice within our community than others, but if we help, I'm sure that every single person really wants all of those things we've just talked about, you know, and even those people that might put themselves forward and may have high office or whatever, they've got those needs just as much as I have, just as much as the rest of us here have, and others that aren't here. So how can we think about, because if we can create community, it is moving to a sense of us, really, and us where we all get heard and we all can experience respect and love and compassion. Another thing I would introduce, I think, a thing about time banking. So I mean, I mentioned time banking last time, but this is the idea, you know, for every hour given to help in the community, you earn 1 time credit. And for every hour of help received, you pay 1 time credit. So this is a system of moving away from just having a money bank. And Gary mentioned that we all need money, and absolutely we do. But actually, we also operate another system of sharing, and that's where we share time with each other. Now, we often at the moment, we don't give time credits, but we help our friends and family. We get somebody else doing it. We don't give time credits, but we're still doing that. But this is a different economy that we can create that goes alongside money, and you don't have to have money to be able to take part in it. So that's another ingredient I would put in. I think for me, the sharing through a time bank is also something where actually people get to know each other as well. And because sometimes you can exchange a pound note or a series of pound notes with another person and have no contact with them at all. So how can we do things that actually build our contact and build our connections with each other? So that's one ingredient as well. The other thing of having a local bank, or a way that we can have our money locally so we can support and develop. So, you know, if there's people wanting to have their own home, maybe they want to rent their own home or buy their own home. You know, we used to have a building society system, didn't we, in this community, in the country, where local building societies were created, and people helped others to invest and have their own home that they could buy, whether they got a mortgage or whatever. So, but it's not just about housing, it's also about business. It's about, you know, you've got people that are creative in their lives, in their work. How can we also share our resources to back each other, to back the people with ideas that they have, to get the investment in their ideas so they can have a go and make it grow? And it's not, you know, they're not, because we have a lot of national and international banks, but they're not necessarily contributing and enabling our communities, and the money is seeping out of our communities. It doesn't move around our communities and share and enable within our communities. So how could we have something like that? And there's different ideas about that, and there's quite a lot of communities across Britain and across the world who are looking at local banking systems and networks. I mean, one very good example of that is a credit union, and we used to have a credit union in Wellingborough. I know it used to operate actually out the Victoria Centre, but, you know, could we have systems where people can back each other with money within our own communities? So these ideas I'm suggesting, they're not necessarily new, you know, it's not sort of landing on the page. You might not have heard them before, but I'm sure many of you have. But how can we enable those ingredients to actually exist in our communities? I think the closest bank, I mean, I know there was a Metro bank set up in Northampton, but Metro is a national company. But how can we have local banks, even something local to the county? You know, we have got a credit union that's local to the county, but many of us here don't feel like we can actually even connect in with that. So is that really local for us?
Are you suggesting we set one up, Marion? Because
I'd set up all of these things if I could. I think there's some common ingredients that actually help people come together and build this thing, which is a sense of community. You know, it's, if you've got a population of 75,000, which we have within the borough of Wellingborough, there's a hell of a lot of needs, but there's also a lot of skills there. So how can we mutually support each other and create needs and opportunities for each other? And these are some of the ingredients that could help us to do that. And then there's networks of support. Fundamentally, a lot of us need help, whether we need help to bring up our kids, whether we need help to somebody to look after our children if we go to work, whether we need help ourselves, we might need support in our own lives. Well, we all need support in our own lives, but in our society, a lot of people have support because they might be sick or disabled, or because they might be getting older and they need extra support in their own lives. How can we create mutual supportive networks that, you know, are not just about labels or categories that we're in, but actually about how we care for and respect each other?
I think I made you miss a slide, Marion. What was number 4?
Sense of community.
Yeah, I interrupted you. You didn't introduce that one.
I think with this one as well, it's also that what sort of actions can we do together? You know, if we've got, like, I'll give you an example of our street in Colwell Road. That's where I live in Wellingborough, and we had a need about, we were all, a lot of people getting broken into, etc. We live in these old Victorian houses, and a lot of us came together and we've done work to try and keep an eye on our communities. We've got a street watch group or a neighbourhood watch group going. We've cleared the alleyways at the back of our homes, and this week, after 10 years of work and campaigning, we've actually had alley gates land, and that was because we all started working together, us as residents, but also with the Police and Crime Commissioner's office and the council and others. And we've managed to, through common action and a common endeavour, start to look to meet our needs better. So it all starts here with community and with having a common aim together. And then another thing I thought would be really nice, so this is for the people, particularly like Morrisons and the supermarkets and others, but anybody, I mean, if you think about the 75,000 people that live in Wellingborough, yes, there's some people that live in that are very, very poor and have very little income, but there's a lot of people that have some income, and there's a moderate number that have a lot of income. How can we share, how can we use that resource to invest in each other and invest in our communities? So the bank could be a repository for that resource, but equally we could have a community chest where we decide on the priorities, the things that are important to us across our town, across our borough, but actually work together. You know, we don't always have to wait. I mean, one of the things that as part of this movement, I'll just stop there for a second, as part of this movement called the Transition Towns movement, and they were saying, actually, you know, it isn't always about campaigning. Actually, half of life is about thinking together and doing, you know, what can we change ourselves? So it's not about waiting for permission all the time. Can we give ourselves permission? So could we give ourselves permission to put a little pot of funding together or energy together and come up with a list of jobs or services or activities that we want to have happen in our town or our borough, and start to make those things happen? So some of the things I've shared are some of the ingredients that could go towards making us be a more resilient community. I think the other one, I didn't get to do it, but it's actually, well, it is there. It's about food, actually. You know, we talked as food and having a roof over the head these are two of the most fundamental needs. So could we grow food more ourselves? How do we make food affordable for everybody? You know, because a lot of people, it's just not affordable. I mean, we go back to Paul's point at the very beginning about getting rid of food banks. I mean, for me, and you know, I hope people understand what I'm saying. I think the fact that we have food banks is a massive indictment of our society, because it's not recognizing that actually this is a fundamental need that we, if we were a good society, we'd be looking to make sure that everybody has food enough to live and a roof over their heads. So, but we don't always, the thing is, it's not always either also it's not always just about getting food from the supermarkets, and no disrespect to Morrisons or others. It's also how do we create a connection with the food that we eat as well. You know, that saying, we are what we eat. You know, we've seen a massive disconnection between people and the food that we eat, and even knowing where it comes from. So things like being able to grow our own food and learn how to do that. And many people either never had that skill or have lost that skill. So those things where we can fundamentally work together and really meet some of our basic needs in a very practical way are some of the ingredients that go towards making a really resilient community. And the final one really is about, and I see your hand, Sky, so the final one is about being heard and and making decisions. You know, we all here have these needs that we talked about earlier. So we can either choose to try and meet them on our own, or we can think, actually, could we do it together? Now, in a way, we live in a town, we live in a community where we've got structures that do that. There's councils. That's the idea behind a council, is how we meet our needs together. But being heard within that, and I'm going to say this, I feel it's got lost. A lot of us don't get heard in the way that decisions are made about us in our lives or in our communities. We've got the energy to add to the pot, but we're not being heard in how the decisions are made about how that energy in that pot is used. So how can we enable something? And that's where the opportunity around a community forum or community resilience forum can come up. So there, for me, some fundamental ingredients in a resilient society, but they're not by any means all. And I'm sure you can all think of many more, especially around inclusion. So, you know, we've talked about physical structures, but how do we help everybody to be able to draw on those? And I'll stop now because I'm rambling on as well. Sky, you had your hand up.
So it is backtracking quite a lot now, but just to back Morrisons up a little bit, we do actually offer, or we have a farm to fork scheme, and it's basically where we allow people to visit. Obviously, this is a post-pandemic, pre-pandemic plan, but it's where we allow people to visit our farms and actually see where the food that we sell is grown, and then we take them to a distribution centre and watch it be processed. So we have a distribution centre in Rushton that we take people to and offer tours. People to go to the farm, go to the distribution centre, and then come in store, and they will see the food from farm to fork. And I think that it's really important, as you said, Marion, just to enlighten people. Food doesn't come from Morrisons, it doesn't come from Tesco's. Food comes from a farm or from a factory, and I think that it's
our back gardens, or
a back garden, an allotment, just to make sure that people are aware of what the earth and what places can provide them, rather than it just being there for the taking in a supermarket.
Thank you very much, Sky. I just want to
there,
go back.
sorry, Sky, is there a way of sharing that? Because obviously, like, I've heard of it, but I've worked for Morrisons for nearly a year. I've never actually seen anything on it.
You know what? I'll dig it out. I'm going to do some investigation work and find it.
I'm looking forward to that happening. That's fantastic. We do have a community allotment, Marion, don't we? Sorry to sort of burst your bubble a little bit. The Eco Group has a community allotment at Ladywell Allotments, and from the 29th of March we're restarting our working parties again, which is quite exciting. So the rule of 6 will apply, but we're hoping for some sunshine, because that seems to have been a bit short on the ground as well. And I've also signed up a couple of people to sort of do events, whether sort of in person or sort of on the video. They can sort of do teaching events at that allotment as well. So hopefully that will sort of cover a few of the things that Marion was just talking about.
So just on that, I mean, you know, that was me just thinking, and even as I've finished, I've thought of other things actually. So other people, you know, because it can't. Other people, what else do you think? So I've been through those things, but what else do you think we need in our communities to be able to other basic ingredients or basic structures, you know, I've got a few more to share, but I'm dominating the thing, so it's not fair. So, Jaya.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who need the help, but they don't want to ask for the help.
Yeah.
And I think if we as a resilience forum can identify those, whether it's inviting the schools to join this forum, or housing department, or that kind of stuff. So people who are aware of low income, people who need help, and then help them that way, I think. But when we say to people, you know, come forward, a lot of people are embarrassed. People got pride, you know, and I find that a lot of them will kind of go without rather than to ask. So
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I think really it's trying to approach that community, or, you know, people like that, really.
Just on the thing of help, actually, I just want to ask a question, so to say something here, actually. So how are you off then, Sam? Thank you for joining us. Take care.
So, I just want to admit, thank you so much, everyone, and I think this is just wonderful. So thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Just on the whole thing of help for a minute, actually, is about you know, I think, what do I want to say? It can be framed in our society that there's those people that need help and there's those people that give help, and the two aren't the same. Actually, I think, you know, who here doesn't need help in their lives, and who here doesn't like to give help in their lives? Do you see what I mean? I think our society in many ways is set up sort of, those are the people that get helped and these are the people that give the help. And yeah.
What was the point? Obviously,
Well,
sorry,
Jay was
Marion,
just saying, Jay was just saying that sometimes people are anxious about coming forward to ask for the help they need, and I get that. And I'm saying actually that all of us need help at different times in our lives. So I think sometimes, you know, it gets framed that you're being needy and that's all you are. You know, that's all you are, is needy, and it's not that you're able to help somebody else, because actually there's plenty of people that might have a particular need but are also able to help other people. And if you think about our benefit system, for example, it's built on the basis of that you're 100% needy at the point that you need that help, that you're not able to help anybody else at that point, and you're not able to contribute to society at that point. And actually I think that's a destructive kind of way of thinking, because actually it makes us all, it kind of splits down between the needy and the non-needy. But actually all of us are needy at different times of our lives, and all of us need help at different times of our lives. But all of us, even no matter how acute our need might be, we still often want to help other people. So how do we create a system that recognizes that and doesn't just keep people in that corner or this corner? Does that make sense? Because otherwise people are going to feel like it's charity and I can't come forward because it's charity and I can't have charity. And actually, you know, in other words, it's moving away from people doing to us or doing to others, but actually we're helping each other. Do people get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that what kind of what you were? Does that relate to what you were saying, Jay?
Sky's being polite again with her hand up. Just dive in, Sky. There's only 6 of us left.
I'm getting I need to follow Zoom etiquette, and I'm like, no, my hand is up. I'm just gonna wave. I just wanted to jump on what Jaya said about people from certain communities not wanting to come forward. I met with a lady from Redeem Funds yesterday, and she's Nepalese. And one thing she said, because Redeem Funds is from, it's set up in Nepal, and she said that there are still issues within Asian communities. Again, I'm saying this on behalf of her, not my personal experience, whereby if you ask for help, you are needy, just like Marion has said, you're needy and therefore you can't help anyone else, you're useless. And I think that's something we really need to do if we're going to succeed in running a community where people feel a part of it and do feel heard, is to just break down that stereotype and to make sure that everyone has that purpose and that they are able to help however they can. So it's not about money, it's not about necessarily being a life guru or whatever. It's just about making sure that you're there and you're available, and that anytime someone needs your help and it's something you can give advice with, that you're there. I think that that is something we need to break down and make sure that stereotype and stigma is not attached to needing help, because like you said, we all need help sometimes.
Are you saying the Nepalese community don't do charity then? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, oh my gosh, not at all. So
what are you trying to say? Why the reference to the Nepalese?
Just because, it was a reference to Asian communities, not necessarily Nepalese, just what Mary spoke to me about in terms of Asian communities. And in her opinion, she sort of made it very clear that there's still that traditionalized view that a man should be working, a woman should be at home. Of course, not all Asian communities, not all people are like this, but I think it follows very nicely onto the point that Joe was making, that some people don't feel comfortable asking for help, and it's just something that needs to be addressed.
So I think,
sorry, Marion, could I jump in and say that actually people of a certain age in any community, I think, are pretty much like that. Like, I've been brought up like that we don't ask for anything, that you provide for yourself. Do you know what I mean? I've never claimed anything, because that's just who I am. Do you know what I mean? I've always sort of tried to provide myself.
Yeah, but I guess there's a voice that comes that encourages us to be like that. It says you've got, especially in this country, I think there is a sense that, you know, you have to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, all the rest of that stuff. And actually, but good community is a recognition of interdependence, not just I mean, independence is all of us being an island, isn't it? And actually we're not, you know, as a not in you know, we can't be islands. We talked about it very early on in the meeting about the complete need for social connection and social interaction. And actually, obviously, you know, from you think about everybody, my need is your opportunity, and actually that's how even sharing the need helps someone else, doesn't it? So I think actually what we're moving on to now is the whole thing of recognizing. So if you're thinking about those ingredients I was talking about a minute ago, we also need to recognize some things already. We're not starting with a blank sheet of paper, are we? We're inheriting lots of thoughts and ideas and values and practices that are already here within our communities, and actually are parts of the diversity of who we are as people. And you know, and also it's recognizing the inequalities that exist within our society as well. So we might be wanting to create new ways of engaging and being resilient people and resilient communities, but across that, you know, like the wording in a stick of rock is the different strata, the different challenges that many of us face because of one thing or another, because of, you know, there isn't equality for many people. So, you know, that's within that picture too. How do we then do the sorts of things we're thinking of, but also recognize that not everybody is included, and not everybody feels that they are able to contribute and take part, and not everybody feels that their voice is even considered, let alone heard. So how because this is the land we're in, isn't it? This is the challenge of we want to rebuild community or take part in that, but it is recognizing what we've already got here. Now, one of the things that they used to talk about in the transitions towns, but it also comes up in lots of cultures, is hearing people's stories, and hearing each of our stories. And I think I know from I spent a bit of time with a community in Scotland called the Findhorn community, and what they start off with was actually showing us, you know, that we have something value. Our story, our journey in life is important, and actually, if we hear that and get to know each other, we start making friends with each other, and then we want to help each other, because I think innately within human beings is a desire to help each other. And you know, maybe it gets dispersed by whether we're actually feel able to do that or empowered to do that. anyway, I just wanted to know also that Vicky and Sophie have been contributing a number of things through the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Chat thing, because so they're not getting heard, so I'd like to go back and make sure they are getting heard. No, if I can do that. Vicky mentioned a little while ago, about 10 minutes ago, that when we need to move through the pandemic, we need to reiterate that we are still here and that what we have to offer as a community. So yeah, it's like a recapping of who we are and what we can do together. And some of the stuff that we need, the services maybe have gone, and it's going to change massively, but the council's changing as well. So it is what do we still have here, and how can we help each other? And then also Vicky was saying it's about empowering people. I'm trying to move down the page a bit, about empowering people and supporting our confidence, their confidence to engage with each other. Are you able to give an idea when this meeting will be finishing? Yeah, we're aiming for 4 o'clock.
Look at
We're aiming for 4 o'clock, Vicky.
I missed that one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a bit.
Is that a personal message, Marion, that one? We are, whoever said that, we are due to be here for 2 hours. Obviously, we've had a couple of people leave us already, but I would suggest that we don't go on past 4 o'clock, Marion.
Yeah, no problem. So I've talked about some ingredients. I think other ones that we could add to that is all around, you know, an education system. That you think about the education system in our community, it doesn't feel like something we can steer, does it? Do people feel like it's something we can steer? That it's something we can really, you know, it's an education system in the ways that we might like. I mean, everybody would probably have different ideas about that, but does it feel like it's something that's done to us in our communities, or is it something that we are actually able to influence and support? And how do we teach the soft stuff, you know, not just the academic stuff? How do we help young people or any person? You know, we've got a really good example now. There's a lot of people losing their jobs and needing to retrain. How do we enable that to happen? You know, so a good community, I think, a resilient community would have education and learning systems that are actually for life, you know, because we're all learning, we're all growing, whether we're at school or adults or working through our lives. A good learning system is one that keeps us learning and helps us to develop. And then there's a whole thing around travel and transport as well. What does good travel or transport in our community look like? That's a question, Mary.
Who wrote that one, Marion? Was that one of yours? Was it about travel?
It's just that I think if Sam was still here, he'd be asking that question. So I'm trying to give voice to that thought, because that's, again, we talked about that as a fundamental need. So how do we enable that to be something that, you know, how do we have a good travel system that doesn't destroy the planet at the same time? Or
it's about enabling mobility, isn't it? It's not necessarily just like public transport. It's for people that are disabled to make sure they can get out of their houses, and to make sure that footpaths, cycle paths are in good order so people can use them. Yeah. How
do we enable everybody to be able to take part in society if you can't travel there? And a lot of us do travel there. I know we're not traveling so much, but how do we help that? So there are a few things. Was there anything you wanted to say any more on that, or?
Well, the other thing that I would say is to give people somewhere to go. Obviously, there is the library, and clearly when everybody's allowed to go in there, that is a massive central hub that a lot of people, particularly homeless people, people that don't necessarily have something to do during the day, can take as a resource. A lot of children use it, a lot of elderly folk, a lot of business people use it to sort of have somewhere to go to have their sort of, I don't know, lunch, do their work, whatever it is. But also I think we need more than the library. We need community centres like us at the Victoria Centre to be community hubs again. We were talking at our repair club to a lady who was recently disabled, and she just assumed, like before she was disabled, a lot of stuff was there. There's all these things going on, and then she got disabled and turned around, and everything had disappeared because a lot of things have been cut. Things like Sure Start and all sorts of schemes, like things that disabled people can take advantage of. I think, like for instance, us at the Victoria Centre could have that as a space for communities to become that community hub again, like Glamis Hall, other community centres around the town and area can do exactly the same thing. But creating a community hub, I think, is an absolute must for the community, particularly as we come out of lockdown, because there will be a lot of people that will be, oh, I can now go out and do something, just like our recently disabled lady that attended the repair club has found. They will be coming out of lockdown sort of going, okay, I can do stuff now, but there's nothing to do because everything's closed, everything's been cut, there isn't anything. So enabling people to actually have somewhere to go and to join in with things, I think, is massively important.
Thank you very much. So I think with all those different ingredients, I mean, in a way then, Jonathan, what you're actually talking about is community amenities, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a big question for, I know we've lost some amenities within our community, but how do we help those amenities to carry on, because they're actually meeting fundamental needs within our town, aren't they? So
really sorry guys, I have to go.
Okay.
Thanks for having me and looking forward to the next one.
Thanks, Sky.
Thank you, Sky. See you later.
Bye.
So the next question really is, these are things that could be in our society. Is that what we want in Wellingborough? You know, have we got those in Wellingborough? If we were starting, I mean, on the agenda, let me take you back to the agenda for a second. I know we might feel like we've wandered off it, but so we said about growing food, didn't we? Okay, so I'll just take us back to the top. Close your eyes for a minute, it's a bit jumpy. Okay, so we've looked at, you know, what good tools, what good community elements could we have in place? How do we then see, you know, how do we get started on that in Wellingborough? Okay, we're looking at this as a community resilience forum. We probably need to think about how we want that to go forward, how we can make it something that people can take part in more and start to tackle some of the challenges we've here earmarked. But what have we already got from those things already, or is it, you know, do you think those things are actually needed, or is it just me saying them? And how do we actually get started? Because there's quite a lot of things there, you know, we have to recognize also, and I'm going to stop sharing this, you know, why haven't we done this before? Why hasn't it happened already? What stops us helping these things to actually happen? And if we are going to do something, what bits could we actually do? Where would we start?
Are you asking everybody to contribute there, Marion?
Yeah, I'm putting it out now. Because I mean, I could talk about all these different things, but yeah, that's great. That's really nice. They look really nice. But can we make them happen in Wellingborough? How would we begin?
It's Sophie and Vicky here. Victoria here. It's very difficult when you can't see us as well, isn't it? We do appreciate that, and hopefully next time we can have a camera. So we were just thinking about the adjustments through the pandemic that services have made, which we could learn from in terms of still reaching out to residents, to the community at large, and possibly building on some of those things. For instance, from the library's perspective, we have had select and collect, so people can request books and come and collect them and then bring them back, which has been a lifeline to some people. We've also done the libraries to you, which is for those that are vulnerable and couldn't come out of their homes for various reasons. And again, that's been a lifeline. And also we've provided online rhyme time and bounce and rhyme for the younger families and activities. Again, you do need access to the digital resource there. We acknowledge that, but that has been really engaging, I think, as well, to some of those the younger families in the community. And
Yeah,
also as part of our redeployment at the beginning of the lockdown, we've been making phone calls to clinically extremely vulnerable individuals within the community. So perhaps there's a lot of learning to be had from how various services and support services out there have had to shift during this time that we could build on. Maybe there's the opportunity there, perhaps. And probably that's more, I don't know, it doesn't provide an answer, but I think we've grown in our resilience as different elements of the community, haven't we, as well, that we could build upon.
I think what you're saying really is it's about starting from where we are. And clearly we've had a massive shift. Everybody in this society has had a massive shift because of this year. And we're going to have more. So how, you know, I mean, for us, when we first thought about creating this forum was bottom line, how does it help more people from different groups and individuals to come together to see how we can all help each other? And, you know, clearly, I mean, we talked about this at the first meeting, actually. It was about getting a better sense of what people, what organisations are doing now to help, you know, and at least making people aware of that, you know, because until you just said, Victoria, I was not aware of the different things that you were doing. And I think another problem of the present has been that, you know, many of us have become siloed because we're either, you know, living with our own personal challenges during this time, or we're living with our own work challenges during this time. And it's hard to get out and see what other people are doing. So, I mean, I know Jonathan's already started compiling a list of different services and activities. And actually one of the things that Jonathan did well through the Eco group was going around where possible, talking to different groups and filming and finding out what they were doing now and how they were helping, and then sharing that through film as well. I mean, obviously we can do it as a list and we can write it out, but equally doing it in an audio format or a visual format is also helpful as well. So that's the kind of bottom line, isn't it? What's our baseline? Where are we starting from? So absolutely, that's a very good idea, Victoria. And we can add that. I know Jonathan's already started working on it. Did you want to say any more about it?
Yeah, crikey, there's about 2 or 3 things you mentioned there that we've been doing. I think if I start with what I've done and then perhaps move on to possibly what we're proposing. What Marion was talking about with the videos was videos that we did for an advent calendar for the Wellingborough Eco group. And what we did as an eco group was try to commit to having 24 different subjects, 24 different groups, businesses, even individuals throughout the town to see what environmentally friendly services and community activities they were doing, and if possible going to interview them and to actually sort of take part in the activities to a certain extent, to actually share with people in the town and then publish it on a daily basis from the 1st of December to the 24th, obviously, to actually share people, to make people aware that things are going on in our town that we should all be proud of. These are all now put on something called Wellingborough Eco Map, which is quite exciting because we've now got a fabulous interactive map where you can click on different locations around the town and find out about things that are going on, basically, services that are happening. And on the Eco Group YouTube channel, I think there's about 15 videos. We didn't get to take a video of everybody, unfortunately, of all of these different things going on. So it's really exciting to get to meet the people. And I guess I'm lucky because I'm kind of out there and about anyway. A lot of people know who I am. So of course I've got a bit of an in. And what we're hoping to do in the future, myself and Marion, possibly me, because I get to do this with my 3-year-old, which is quite exciting. I think somebody's emptying the bins outside. That wasn't me. is go to more community-based things, more companies, perhaps even councils, whoever's doing something in the town that benefits our community, to actually take a video of them and say, hey, give them a shout out, publicise them, make it a thing, share, give people the opportunity to sort of partake in it. And we'll do that either as part of the Victoria Centre, or if the One Wellingborough Plus project is extended past the end of April, to really galvanise something to get people involved. Like, for instance, I'd love to come and see Victoria and Sophie at the library and sort of go through a lot of stuff that they're doing. Obviously, at the moment, that's difficult. In fact, it's impossible, isn't it? But we will be able to do that soon. The rule of 6 is from the 29th of March, and I think it's the 12th of April, where I might be able to actually go and meet people on their premises and things. I'm a bit confused with the roadmap, as everybody else is. What was the other thing you said, Marion? Sorry.
I don't remember.
Oh no, the plans for the Victoria Centre. Yeah, no, there's 2 or 3 things that I did sort of in the quiet patch as I was trying to sort of make the One Wellingborough Plus project sort of catch fire. Is come up with a few new things that we could sink our teeth into, inspired by Marion. Like, Marion's given me quite a few shoves in the right direction, which is good. One was the time bank. We have set up a provisional Facebook page that tells you about time banking. I'll share the link with everybody that's sort of here, so you can have a look at that. The time bank is something, so Marion's looking like I'm jumping the gun a little bit there.
No.
Is that okay to carry on?
Yeah.
The time bank is something that we really are keen, both myself, Marion and Karen as well, and a couple of other members of the Eco Group to start with, because it rewards volunteers. There's an awful lot of good people getting out there and doing stuff, and these people should be rewarded by sort of having experiences or being able to benefit from something that Marion's trying to do, like a food scheme within the Victoria Centre. And what I'm hoping to do with Marion is set that up sooner rather than later as a membership organisation, but not as a membership organisation on its own, so that members of, for instance, the Victoria Centre and the Eco Group, if they've joined the Victoria Centre or joined the Eco Group, they can then automatically be, if they choose so, members of the time bank. So their volunteering that they do will actually sort of contribute to getting them sort of time credits. 1 hour equals 1 time credit, and they can save these up either with an internal system using different organisations that are participating in that, so we can share hours and benefit from each other, or something called tempo time credits, where they can save them up as points within that and then get a reward from it. So, for instance, when museums, theatres reopen, only a few hours will give them a ticket to go and see a play, or we'll get them access to a zoo. These things are absolutely fantastic. It isn't going to cost the Victoria Centre or the Eco Group £1 million, like, compared to the price of these individual tickets. It's buttons. Obviously it costs, it's the way it is. But we should be able to kind of create a community around the time bank with the various member organisations throughout the town. Like, perhaps Sofa Wise might want to join things like that too. Dostio, a lot of other groups could sort of join in with that. Coming away from the time bank, and I'm sure Marion's going to talk a bit more about the time bank in a minute, I'm looking at something like for the future of the Victoria Centre. I feel, as a lot of people do feel, that the Victoria Centre has moved a bit away from the community, not necessarily not being here for the community, that community groups that aren't necessarily the Victoria Centre are running the activities. I think that the Victoria Centre itself should be sort of running some of the activities, giving people opportunities in the Victoria Centre, giving people things to do. And I've called that Vic, but it could be called Bob, it could be called Fred, it could be Victoria. It doesn't matter what it's called. It's something there so that people can join in with and say, hi, I would really, really like to have a comedy club or a magic club or a knitting club or a youth club or whatever club they feel that is missing in their community, that us at the Victoria Centre can say, okay, fantastic, all right, we love that idea, we'd like to enable you to do it and give you that space to do it and a time frame to do it where you don't necessarily have to pay for the space to do it. It's there for you. We'll support you with organising it. A bit like Welly Wombles. Welly Wombles is a really good example of this, because I've been thinking about doing that for a few weeks, and then somebody just went ahead and did it, and I went, whoa, hold on a second. And they did it in such a way where it wasn't manageable. Do you know what I mean? He completely burnt it out between the few of us that are here. And I said, would you like a hand on organising that? And I, Marion helped with this too, made this into a structure and made it organisable, got it approved by the police and environmental health. So actually it works. That over the last couple of days, I've had a couple of emails. Marion's been party to one of them that have said, hi, you can't do this. And I'm like, well, actually, because we've put the work into it to make sure that we can and that it has been approved, here is our set of rules, and this is why this is how we're doing it to make it safe. I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that themselves, but coming back to the Victoria Centre, I would love to be able to say, hi, we're here to support you, we want your energy, we are the place where you can start off, and then perhaps in a couple of months, 6 months, whatever it is, if this thing really takes off, then it will be a massive opportunity for the Victoria Centre as well, because they'll be charging, I don't know, 50p, a pound, £5, whatever sort of activity it is. It will then be able to be self-supporting and then be able to rent the space from us. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. And with that as well, and coming back to the video things, I'm hoping to have that on video too, so that we can share it to the whole town, to the whole Northants, as it's going to be from the 1st of April, and really make a buzz around this place that's a Victoria Centre, because it's a fabulous place. There's amazing facilities. Just so sad at the moment because of the pandemic that it's kind of empty, and I'm in one corner, Marion's in another, and the child services in another, and there's pretty much nothing else apart from Juliet making a noise with a Hoover, which is why I blanked off a minute ago. Jenny, you got your hand up.
That's it. What you've touched on is what Victoria Centre used to do. It used to kickstart groups. The other word that would be used would be incubate a new group until they could stand on their own 2 feet. Now, I'm sure you appreciate it's not just COVID, but the last few years have seen changes there. I've only been there as a trustee since September 2019, and it's not been an easy 18 months. It's been very, very difficult. We are very fortunate that the Victoria Centre is still there. It's still in being and surviving all the problems that the pandemic has caused and other problems that had happened within the Victoria Centre. So we're still there.
Can I just interject?
Yeah.
Marion is responsible for that. Without what Marion's done with getting pennies into this place, it would have not been here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
obviously, there's a lot of heroes here. Jay has been doing an amazing job.
Yeah, I fully support
physical stuff, but without the money, we wouldn't be here.
Yes.
Thank you very much, people. Sorry, otherwise
I think did Jenny stop?
You stopped me. You stopped me.
Sorry,
yes,
I did stop Jenny, unless you're sort of commenting on Jenny's bit.
And I want to pay tribute to the staff that have worked so hard to keep Victoria Centre going.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
very good.
Really, really appreciate that, Marion.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I just want to be mindful that it's not. It sounded like a bit of a Victoria Centre love in here for the minute, which is very nice.
I had to defend it. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I'm also thinking about our friends Victoria and Sophie from the library and others, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you very kindly. I think the point is that good community is about keeping many of the good amenities and services and community places that we've got and having those as hubs in the heart of it. I think Victoria's idea of actually, you know, having a baseline of what's going on, what's available now in the town, in the borough, who's doing what, how can we hear about them, because it, you know, some of us are so busy we just don't get to hear, but actually hearing that would be really good. So thank you much for Jonathan for sharing about some of the ideas that we're thinking of, but it's also, you know, there's some really good ideas going on in the town, and maybe we could look at having a thing, sort of a things that people in Wellingborough can feel proud of kind of thing, you know. I'm trying to find my words here, but there are some really good services, there's some really good people helping each other, we've got some great amenities in the town, but how can we help bringing that all together, and create that baseline of a starting point, and then start to think about, well, what else do we need, and how can we add to that, especially given the many challenges that people are facing at the moment. Was that very much was that on the lines of what you were thinking about, Victoria and Sophie, or have you got other ideas too? Are you still there?
They're definitely still there because they've just responded to me on the chat thing. Here we go.
It takes us a while to unmute, unfortunately.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think a baseline is a really good place to start from, isn't it? In terms of what what we know we're doing at the moment, and working from. And for us, it's interesting to understand what's going on out there as well. And we try and have a presence on social media, but again, not everybody's connected digitally, are they?
No.
So it's how, and as we're moving forward to from the roadmap of reopening, we're not all going to go back to normal straight away, if ever. So it's about how we can be sharing our journey through that to as wide a community as possible, because clearly people will have missed some of the services that each of us offer.
Yeah, particularly the library. Like I've got a 3-year-old, and we absolutely loved using the library for the first year or so. And I say he'd live in the library, I think, bless him. So we haven't been in there for a month. A bit like the swimming pool and a few other facilities in the town. Do you know what I mean? We absolutely love it. So yeah, really looking forward to getting back in there, if you like.
So I mean, we're coming towards the end of the meeting. I mean, I've been asking a lot of questions of people. I think the next thing I wanted to ask really is, you know, how do we move on from here? What's the next step for us here? I think I will say one thing is actually, I think keeping connected and keeping together is important. Having a sense of what lots of people and groups are doing is helpful. But then also seeing what else can we add to that, and how do we do that collectively is another way. And sometimes doing that isn't always easy, because we rub up against each other as people or as organisations, and that's, you know, that's part of the challenge, I think. But so what do others think? What would we like to do next? I mean, how do we take this forward? This is a forum. How do we help more people take part? We had 10 people today. Clearly we would like to see more. How do we help more people take part, and how do we take the whole thing forward? Start for 10.
Is anybody going to jump in? I can jump in, but you've heard enough of my voice, crikey.
What do you think, Jaya? What do you think, Jaya? Sorry, Jonathan.
No, don't.
Long shot. Well, I think at the moment we have got a lot of ideas, and we have advertised it. So we have given people the opportunity to join us, and they haven't. We can go through the whole thing again and send everyone an email, invite them, ask them to join us, etc. See what they're doing, whether they want to work with us, how they do. We could do all of that. But my gut feeling is we've been there, done it so many times, that it's going to be another one of those slow.
So that's the question. How, and I put that in that, I think that was on the slide, wasn't it, at the beginning? How does this become something that is not, I mean, I think the other thing, because I mean, I would like to have prepared a bit more for today's session, but unfortunately, I'm so overwhelmed, really, and be honest about it. With so many things and challenges, and so in asking the question, yes, we want to build, it's not just a resilient forum, we want resilience communities, etc. But the bit that comes before that might be recognizing where we all are. We talked about where services are, but where are we as people? Are we feeling overwhelmed? Are we feeling emotionally overwhelmed? Are we feeling physically overwhelmed? We're all, I mean, you know, this COVID thing isn't just going on around us, it's going through us. It affects every single one of us. So how do we kind of acknowledge the human experiences, our own human experiences in this? You know, because I feel really passionate about community, but also I'm pretty knackered. and other people must be feeling that too. And then there's also the loss. So many of us have lost loved ones. We've lost people we care for. People. So is there a chance for the human, the feelings, the sense of whatever we're going through, a space for that? Jaya?
You see, what I feel, and this is my own experience throughout this COVID, when we started doing the meals, there was a lot of people we could have still got them to, for example. So if we're looking at schools, but we already, when we asked, nobody had kept the data, nobody had any information. So if we know, I mean, the schools are one, I would imagine, would have that kind of information. So we may need to look at whether we kind of keep some of that kind of information for future, where we know of a family that is struggling. I remember, I mean, I've known the Victoria Centre for many, many years. And I have worked with them very closely when Edel was around. So I know then that we had record of families that were on low income, that needed maybe school uniform, that needed extra help with shopping, extra help with whatever. And there was a group of people. And we would occasionally, what we would do is fundraise. Or we would, or Edel would say to me, is there any idea that any way you can help us? So of course, from Dosti or Milab, I would do a little bit of fundraising, and we would gather either groceries or whatever they needed. There was a time when they needed paper, they needed scrapbooks, color pencils, pens, things like that, stationery. So we collected that, and we actually donated it to them. But it was done in such a subtle way that people don't feel kind of like, you know, embarrassed about the whole situation. But this time round, when I suggested, oh, maybe, you know, schools might be able to give us this information, we were told, well, actually, no, there isn't this information around. So that's lost. That's lost in the system. Now, had that still been there, or even if we invite some of the schools to join the forum, they might be able to give us more of an input, because that's where the families are, that's where the children are, those are the people that don't have cereal in the morning, those that are struggling, those that don't have the warmth, so whatever's going on. But we did have that information at the Victoria Centre a few years ago. Yeah. And of course, over the years, it's lost, but we need to get that back.
Yeah.
I think Jenny wants to say something, and that's probably what I'm just about to say.
I'm puzzled. I'm wondering why that information isn't available. If it was available and you knew about families in need of help in about 3 or 4 years ago, why has suddenly that not become available? Or are other organisations filling that gap? Are the schools and the government projects, are they filling the gap? It's a mismatch between the statutory services, data protection, because that will come into it, and what the voluntary service, and let's put us in the remit of the voluntary service, here, this forum, because we have volunteers, aren't we? We're doing this because we believe in it. Is there a mismatch between statutory services, information, and the voluntary service? And I've sat here thinking through this meeting, there is a lot going on. There is a lot of change in the statutory services. And I know because of other things that I do and other places that I go to meetings, things are changing, but to me, it seems they're not linking up. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the big gap. We've got to find a way of linking up with what we can offer here, and making statutory services, and by that I'm saying all statutory services, aware that it's not just this group, but all over the county, all over the country, there will be similar groups doing the same thing. And at the moment, there's a mismatch.
I think there's I think one thing, and I'm mindful of time, so we are at 4 o'clock now, but just a quick thing in response to what you were saying, Jenny, that I think over the last 10 years, we've seen a significant withdrawal of statutory bodies from the roles that they used to perform. They've withdrawn massively, so it's left big gaps, and also not only have they withdrawn their energy, they've withdrawn their resources. So a lot of their resources used to go to voluntary sector organisations or whatever, or you've got statutory organisations doing things that they never used to do. And I know one place that happened a lot was in the libraries, where the functions within the library changed radically in the last years.
Yes.
And so I think the thing is that unfortunately a lot of things don't join up anymore, because the networks have gone, they've withdrawn, and the voluntary sector and ordinary people within communities have had to step up. Voluntary sectors organisations have been significantly hit, so they've lost a lot of money. But equally, ordinary citizens, residents, groups have emerged, like the people doing the street cleaning, like the One groups and others, like the Homelessness Forum, like various other, like the IAG, that I'm part of the police advisory group, and we've done the street watch work and all that. They're ordinary people have come together to do things to try and fill those gaps, but it's really hard to fill those gaps because we lost a lot of resource. But by doing some of that, we've also we've empowered ourselves and we've enabled ourselves. So there's a bit of a positive coming out of it. But the question is, how can we put the individual action and the group actions together with the statutory?
Exactly.
Where possible.
There's a mismatch at the moment.
Yeah, but that's because there is the gap, because they have withdrawn, and we're going to see that even more so with the new bigger council, the North Northants District, the North Northants Unitary Council, because their purpose is to save money. So we as citizens, the need for us to come forward and step forward and do more things together is going to become much more prominent. So forums like this are going to become more important. And hopefully means through which more people can be heard, but we can also do practical actions to help in our communities, whether it's making people more aware of the things that we already do, or starting to offer services that have been forgotten. I mean, there's no service that exists in this time that didn't exist before. There's none of the ideas I've shared earlier or whatever, they're brand new. They're not new ideas. A lot of them are recycled from the past, but they're not here now. So how do we help them to come? But actually, this is a call to action to all residents, all 75,000 residents of the borough of Wellingborough, that we cannot just expect or rely on the public bodies to do that anymore. What can we do? These are our needs. These are our families and our communities. How can we come together to do that? And I'm going on my soapbox again, but this is the question. This will constantly be the question, because we need each other. We're human beings and we need each other, and that brings us back to the very beginning.
It does. Can I just challenge Jar a little bit on the fact that nobody turned up this time? Obviously, we did have 10 people, which is still very impressive. We actually had 10 people sign up for this and sort of apologise in the last day or two, which is really quite unusual, to be fair. But that's potentially another 10 people and there are also a couple of new people that have signed up to this. So we've got sort of over 30 people that have registered for this forum. On Facebook, we have a forum on there too, and I'm trying to get that kind of working, but not quite in the same way. That's now got 100 members, so it's not that there isn't people wanting to take part in it. There are people that want to talk about it and join in the discussion about the town. And obviously, like, this is something that's new, isn't it? People aren't used to doing this. People are kind of a bit war weary, if you like, from the pandemic. They kind of become very insular the last few months, over the last year. So being able to get out and talk to people is a fairly new thing for a lot of people, and a lot of people have sort of really gone into their own bubble, right? And I think we need to go around with a sharp pin and pop a lot of people's bubbles to get people out again.
Oh, anyway. I'm mindful of the time, and we did say we were going to finish at 4. I just wanted to share one last thing with people, actually. Now, so I think I think a lot of us are feeling tired and jaded in many ways, and there's a heart journey going on here for all of us. So last time I mentioned that at Victoria Centre we wanted to do this wall of remembrance. So we have now set it up. So I'm going to show you a picture of that if I can. So can people see that okay? So this is only a little start. So, and as we so what we're inviting people to do is, a lot of us have lost loved ones through the pandemic, whether because of COVID or other things. A lot of us also, we've lost loved ones before, but because of the pandemic, we're not able to commemorate or think of those loved ones in the way that we would like. I had the situation for myself the other day in respect to my mum. And I think somewhere where we can actually acknowledge our own feelings and mark these important things, because this has been a heart-rending process for all of us and still is. So if anybody wants to share a picture or a poem or some words about a loved one that they've lost, they don't have to be from Wellingborough, they could be anywhere else on the planet. If you want to share that, and we'll honour we'll put them on the picture of them on the words or whatever that you want to share, their name on the wall. And each week we'll take another picture and show who's being commemorated, or we'll take some film to show that. But I think it's really important to recognise the heart journey that we're all going through. And this is one element that we're trying to offer to that, and others will do other things as well. But maybe that's what could make this forum a bit different, is to first off, before we charge off doing lots of things, or whether we already are, maybe it's also acknowledging how we're feeling and how we're coping. And yes, we are coping, most of us, but sometimes we're not coping, sometimes it's difficult. So it's actually, that is part of the baseline as well, I would suggest. Anyway, thank you to everybody for coming. I think just before we finish, I just want to ask if anybody else has got anything they want to say before we finish. Can I ask that?
I'd like to invite everybody to the seed swapping thing tomorrow. I think Jaya might be coming anyway. I know me and Marion are. So there's two more people, or 3 if you include Sophie, that could come and share seeds with us. We've got crikey loads. The list that Karen shared with me earlier on today is, wow, what is there, about 100 packets of seeds there? I've got another perhaps 40 to add to that. So what I'm planning to do with that is try and get that onto a web page tonight. Hopefully Bill will go to bed early. So we can have a really sort of fun, interactive sort of seed swapping session. And what we're trying to do with that is trying to build a community around our community gardening activities, focused on the community allotment, but also at the Victoria Centre as well. We need like community gardening going across the town. It's a fun way for people to get out and about. It's something that people can do from March the 29th. So yeah, we're gonna really sort of share seeds tomorrow, but share gardening over the next few weeks and months.
So that's.
May I ask, are you going to have a plant swap later on in the spring?
Ooh,
That would be just
crikey.
yeah,
Yeah,
perennials.
no, that sounds fab. Our swap shop, Jenny, is every 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks' time, or 2 weeks tomorrow, it'll be another general swap shop. But yeah, why not? Crikey, we can have a
Why not
plant
have
swap.
have a theme? You could have perennial swap shop at some stage. Grasses,
Well, I
We're
think
going to end up with a
Yeah.
gardening club.
seedlings. Well, why
Hold
not?
on,
Why not?
Marion's
People-
trying.
I think people need to leave. Thank you very much to Victoria and to Sophie for coming. Thank you very
Bye.
much to
Bye.
Jay and everybody. And if you're around tomorrow for the Saturday morning swap shop, we'll be online for that as well. But thank you everybody for
10:30.
coming along.
Thank you.
And
Thank
there
you.
are some
Thank you.
seedlings as well being shared, I think. So
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, it's been lovely. Thank
thanks
you.
for joining us. Thanks for joining us, Jenny. Thanks for joining us, Victoria.